Welcome to this week's episode of Safety Brainiacs. Today we're talking about the subject of stress, something that's on most people's minds. According to the Health Canada study, they're citing that 47% of people consider stress in their workplace to be one of the most significant factors in their life. A study by the Canadian Mental Health Commission states that 1 in 5 Canadians experience a mental health problem or illness each year, and that represents 500,000 employees unable to work each week. If we look at visits to the physician, typically 60% of visits are for a stress-related cause, and so we're talking about that today. So what is the stress response? Basically, it's a survival response. When you look at an animal in nature, when it's relaxed, it's grazing in the meadow, say a deer, that energy for that animal is all residing in its core vital organs, and the parasympathetic nervous system is turned on. And so the tissues are repairing themselves, and it's the growth response. If that deer all of a sudden gets wind of a wolf that wants to eat it for lunch, that animal is going to turn on its survival response, which is also the sympathetic nervous system, which is the same thing as the stress response. And in a flash, there's going to be a massive surge of energy that's released in that animal, and the energy is going to move out into the extremities so that animal can outrun the wolf. So in that stress response, the arteries constrict, the blood pressure increases, the blood goes from the forebrain to the hindbrain, to that survival brain or reptilian brain, and the animal becomes very narrow focused. It's focused on its body, its environment, and time. Why? Because it's focused on itself and its survival. It's not interested in communicating or stopping, to talk to the other animals in the forest. So with respect to humans, when they're under stress, no different than the animal, that's a survival response. The only problem with humans is it's typically meant to be a short-term survival mechanism. So with the animal, 15 minutes later, it's going to be over typically. Either the animal is lunch or it's outrun the predator and it goes back to grazing. With human beings, if they're going into a work environment where they're experiencing stress day after day, maybe it's autocratic leadership, maybe it's production demands, maybe it's information overload, or maybe they come home and they watch the news, which is very stressful, or maybe they're dealing with small children and aging parents and financial concerns and second mortgages. So with a human, that continued stress is like the animal being chased day after day and week after week and month after month. And imagine an animal in nature never being able to turn off that stress response. What's going to happen? Obviously, that body is going to break down over time. So that's the same thing that happens with human beings. They start to wear out and wear down. We now know from a biological, neurological, neurochemical point of view that their immune system absolutely is compromised. They're more likely to get colds and flus in the short term, and in the long term, they're more likely to get some other illness or disease. So as we understand how the stress response works, my hope is that it gives you some of the motivation to do better self-care. Maybe it is a mindfulness practice. Maybe you don't watch the news at night. Maybe you take time for walking in the forest or walking in nature. Those are all things that will slow the brain waves down and help you have your parasympathetic nervous system running, the rest and restorative system. So thank you for attending this episode of Safety Brainiacs. And remember, a brainiac is an exceptionally intelligent person. So go out there and make great choices for your health and well-being. And if you find value in these video safety talks, please share with your friends and click the link below to subscribe to our channel and be notified when we post new videos.